Happy Friday, everybody. And in today's YouTube upload, we're going to show you guys how to improve your run game in arguably one of the hardest to run in Madden history. Let's get into it. What is up, guys? Zan from the Zan Madden YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the biggest habit a lot of players have when running the ball in Madden 23. Now listen, I'm going to say this from the top. I totally understand that Madden 23 is probably the worst running Madden ever, between the auto disengages, the block sheds in general being geeked up regardless of block shed rating, and honestly probably the worst run block targeting in the history of Madden.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
A lot of players really cannot run the ball in this year's game, but I do think that there is a common theme to most of the players that are struggling, and that is that they hold the turbo button behind the line of scrimmage.
Total noob. Classic noob.
We've talked about this before in YouTube Shorts, and it's something that is a topic of nearly every stream that I have. If you guys want to see me live stream, I am live on Twitch Monday through Friday. We usually go live in the late morning or early afternoon, sometime between 11 to 1 Central is when we start, and we roll until 5:30, 6 o'clock, sometimes even later. And again, that is Monday through Friday. You guys can click the link in the description and check me out live. Because I get a lot of you guys that are out there saying like,
hey, when are you ever going to show us gameplay tape?
I'm like, well, I stream for 5 to 8 hours a day, 5 times a week. If you guys want to see all these tips in actual gameplay, that's where you find me.
Today's video, we're going to talk about Le'Veon Belling behind the line of scrimmage. A lot of players obviously remember who Le'Veon Bell is. He's not really a forefront name in the NFL right now, but we all remember how patient the guy was behind the line of scrimmage when taking handoffs. It just felt like he spent so much time back there, and then he would always rip off these insane runs with his patience. And I think that's something that I preach a lot in this year's game, is that you really have to be patient with your run approach, or else you're going to run right into auto disengage animations. So we're going to use a lot of the game's pain points kind of against themselves in this particular tip to hopefully establish something that kind of resembles a run game, I guess. So let's go ahead and get into it here. I'm going to take you into my favorite playbook, which is the single back bunch X nasty. The wide zone weak is something that I've run a ton this year. I've run it like 9,000 times. Ignore the play call data. I actually just restarted my custom jerseys, and I had to delete my profile in order to do that. So I lost all my play call data, but you guys can, did I just say data? What was that word? I lost all my play call data, but I do run this run for about 8.5 yards per carry. Yes, I understand I have Derrick Henry. I'll go ahead and take him out here. We'll use Najee Harris, just a regular 95 overall card here.
You sure you want to do that?
So Le'Veon Belling, what is it? Well, the first thing that you need to understand when you're doing this tip is that you're not going to hold the turbo button.
Don't do it.
A lot of players don't remember, but years and years ago, there was a Madden, I think it was Madden 10, that got leaked on a pirating website, and a lot of Madden players that were eager to play it installed it on their modded Xboxes. And during this time, there was actually a line of code that was found that was tied to holding the turbo button behind the line of scrimmage. I would surmise that that was tied to quarterback scrambling, because when you guys go to scramble this year, defensive linemen all get off blocks, and that includes double teams. It's actually infuriating how the defensive line is so psychic. As soon as you press the turbo button, a defensive tackle will split a double team or be able to peel back and tackle the quarterback as he scrambles up a wide open A gap. I think that obviously that was really geeked up due to the escape artist last year, but I do believe in the run game itself, that holding turbo behind the line of scrimmage, in particular when you're changing directions, it's basically a recipe for auto disengage and shed animations that occur that contribute to the pain points of running the football in Madden 23. So the first thing that I want to encourage you guys to do is run the ball without holding the turbo button. You'll notice that these gaps are much more evident to you. You're going to notice that you can hit more gaps. You're going to feel a little bit more agile with your runner, because you do take a agility or change of direction penalty when you run the ball with turbo. But you see how I'm able to kind of set up my blocks, and then only when I'm downfield do I make that acceleration when it's me and I'm trying to get that angle on the sideline against a defender, and if I run by him, I'm gone. The next thing that I want to preach to you guys when you guys run the ball is the actual Le'Veon Belling. And what that means is that basically when you run the ball, if you can kind of be soft on the thumbstick and just kind of baby tap the trigger, just like little third, like a little bit of a third of a push, not like a half push, not a full push where you click the stick. I just like little love taps in the direction that you run the ball. It kind of makes your player kind of wiggle back and forth. But what you're going to notice out of that is that you can really accelerate out of that animation. It's kind of the equivalent of the strafe burst on defense. If you guys hold the turbo button on defense as well, you guys probably notice your guy feels slow, kind of clunky, like he's running in mud. But if you kind of use the strafe button, it allows you to really explode out of those cuts. The same can be said when you kind of do this little tack behind the line of scrimmage, and it allows you to kind of set your blocks up. Now, be careful that you don't overdo it. The key here with this is that you kind of want to get yourself in a spot where, you know, you're at least I would say giving yourself an opportunity to, you know, you see right here, I was able to do that love tap and cut it back up the right A gap. This is basically a way that you can kind of put your foot in the ground and go without actually using the hard cut mechanic that EA put in the game, which, by the way, I think is one of the worst features they've ever put in the game. I think that mechanic is useless. I don't see pro players using it well. I really don't see anybody with what is called stick work in Madden 23 using the hard cut mechanic. But you see, like, you can kind of like do these little hezzy animations behind the line of scrimmage and let players over pursue into the gap, and then you can cut it back off of that over pursuit. This is something that I do very, very frequently against dollar players, is I'll kind of run these little stretch calls, and I'll watch the linebacker. And if I see him like really dive bombing over, that's where I know I can like hit those gaps back. Of course, sheds can occur. You know, this isn't a tip that's gonna be like, oh, you're gonna go from running for nothing to running for everything every play. But, you know, I do want you guys to know that there is value to kind of these little love taps. You see right there, not holding the turbo button behind the line of scrimmage. That right there was me love tapping, and then I was able to avoid an oncoming unblocked defender, which kind of brings me to my next point with this. When you're not holding turbo, you are able to change direction much better. So right here, what you don't understand about this, because it wasn't something that is actually visible, is the fact that I'm baby tapping the stick basically towards 1 o'clock right here allowed me to branch out of that instantly into a cut straight up the field and avoid this guy. If I'm holding turbo on this, there is no shot I can do this, and I'm getting tackled for -3. And now all of a sudden you're in second down and 13 or 14 against dollar. Now you have to deal with those blitzing slot corners in the pass game, and maybe you end up making it worse on yourself. But in this situation, I'm able to, you know, make this little cut, and we ended up picking up 5 or 6 out of this. Now, if that's a glowing Derrick Henry, he probably gets hit from behind, breaks the tackle, and gets a speed boost, and we're probably going to end up making Minka Fitzpatrick miss as well with a forearm, you know, with a stiff arm or a trucking animation. You see right here that we turned something that was almost a guaranteed -3, -4 into a gain of about 4.5. So an 8-yard swing on something simply from not holding the turbo button and just kind of love tapping the stick. So that way, when you do make a decision of where to go, you get a speed boost coming out of it. Something really, really small that makes a huge, huge difference when you're running the ball. Again, I understand I'm not house calling any of this, but I'm showing you guys very clearly that all the issues that exist in Madden from a run block perspective, all the targeting nonsense that we see, I mean, there's no reason a slot corner should cross the face of 3 bunch players and get into the backfield right there, but it happens, and you have to learn how to deal with it in your run game. And one thing that I do want to kind of bring to your mind is that holding turbo behind the line of scrimmage makes it so you outrun your blocks. A lot of players out there are so impatient when running the ball. Let me give you a really clear example of something I see players do all the time. In this example, we've got a quick base. This is the gun equivalent of a power O. And I constantly see players that outrun their guard. In that situation, obviously, we got shed. But one of the things that I frequently notice when this happens is that they get up here and they run so fast past their guard, they don't actually let him get out and do anything. And that ends up being something that can be pretty problematic, as opposed to these little love taps. You see how I was able to set those blocks up and I was able to really get out there? So in the previous couple examples, I was holding turbo, running past that pulling guard, and you notice that it looked terrible, right? Like, all those guys are shedding, all kinds of nonsense at the point of attack. In this particular clip, I just trust the pulling guard. I no turbo, just a slight tap to 11 o'clock right here, kind of slow him up a little bit, and look at 73 get down, block his guy, and I'm able to follow this block. And he actually takes out a second guy as well. We picked up a huge chunk of yardage simply by not holding the turbo button. Listen, everybody, this isn't gonna happen overnight for you. I promise you it's not. But I can promise you that if you get into a habit of not holding turbo and being very, very light on the stick as soon as you receive the handoff, if it's a left run, kind of tapping the left stick, just little taps towards 11 o'clock on the thumbstick. If it's a right run, just little baby love taps towards 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock on the left thumbstick. What it's gonna do is it's gonna let your block set up better. It's gonna let combo blockers peel up up to the second level. It's going to let pulling guards get out further in front of you so you can actually follow them and make a decision to go inside or outside of that block based off of the leverage of the blocker and the person that is being blocked on the play. It is going to, in general, allow you to have more gap control to be able to cut things back when you see over pursuit by backside linebackers. If you guys can get into the habit of not holding turbo when you run the football, I promise you it's going to pay major dividends, and you guys are going to love being able to tote on these meta defenses such as dollar, such as 3-3 cub, such as nickel over. You guys are going to have a much better time playing this game. And it's going to open up your pass game as well, because there's nothing more that people hate than defending somebody that can run the ball effectively, because then they can't spend time setting up their blitzes. They can't spend their time making crazy cross-man adjustments or zone drops. They have to start focusing on an area of the game that they haven't had to think about all year long. So that's today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, drop those below as well. I always want to know what you guys are thinking with the content. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. We'll see you guys a little bit later this afternoon with our YouTube short. Happy Friday. We'll see you guys Monday. Until then, this is Ann. Get in the lab and good luck.